Yo! Video games.
This is going to be, I think I listed it as a top 10, but it's not really a top 10. This isn't a ranking. Instead, I want this to be, I guess, for those watching, after the fact, not watching live. I want this to be a video where you can kind of recall or come back to and hopefully rediscover a game that you really, you end up really liking or enjoying. Because if you're new to the genre, I think there's a lot of hidden gems from the past that kind of got overlooked just because of the company went out of business, the publisher went out of business. It just went wrong place, wrong time, and just lost to miss of time, and I think I really enjoy personally videos that talk about things that are like old video games that are great that I might have missed. And sometimes I like referring back to it. I'm shouting out GameSack in particular here. So, I hope this is going to just be a video showcasing some games and why I like them and why I think they're cool and worth your time. And I'm also going to tell you, if they're available, if they are or not available currently on modern systems, because a lot of these may not be. So, you're going to have to dive into the secondhand market or, whatever other means, talk to, some friends, family, maybe they can loan you one or something, you do you, but these are all games that I've played extensively that I all think are worth your time. And if you do choose to someday seek them out, go to a retro game show, maybe you just play them or whatever, or borrow them or something. I hope these hopefully will be games. So I think a lot of people, especially with the advent of Steam and Japan coming around on Steam, meaning there's a lot more JRPGs releasing on Steam nowadays. And I think there's been a lot of people who maybe were PC gamers most of their life, and they're new to the genre, and they're like, okay, well, what is this? Like, what are some good ones? What are some good classic ones? Because everyone's going to recommend you Final Fantasy and, and Persona. And obviously I'm the Xenoblade guy, and first and foremost, you should play Xenoblade, because Xenoblade is a closed trilogy that is just phenomenal start to finish and has a full featured finished story, beginning, middle, end. And if you're worried about X, that's a spin-off that has nothing to do, as of now, has nothing to do with the trilogy. So that being said, if I was one of the people that got you to try Xenoblade and you're like, okay, well, what else is a good RPG from you that I would recommend? That's not the usual, hey, here, try Nier, or play, 13 Sentinels or whatever, or Ys 8, thank you. Yeah, awesome. Hopefully this can, for those watching this, not watching this live, you can look back and say, okay, here's some great games, great JRPGs that are totally worth your time, and I totally think you should check out. So I think without further ado, some of you are going to know some of these, and that's okay. But for some of you, it'll be new. And the first one is super obvious, and it's Skies of Arcadia. This is only available on Dreamcast and GameCube. I'm just going to play you the intro here. So this is definitely one of those light-hearted, just good, fun adventure games. Very One Piece, if you're into that. What's up, Journey? Where there is treasure, there will be air pirates. Ooh, speedrun. One of my favorite games. Just takes the best thing of old JRPGs, airships, and makes a whole game out of it. Hell yeah, T-Minus. Ah, yes, best character Gilder. Skies of Arcadia, or Eternal Arcadia in Japan. Absolutely worth your time. It is a traditional turn-based RPG. Unfortunately, it only came out on the Dreamcast and the GameCube, and those are the only ways to actually play the game. Never got any sort of PC or modern console release. Maybe that'll change someday. Maybe. But absolutely worth your time. It's a game that's all about having an airship, traveling a world map, and not just a world map. The world map is actually full of discoveries where you can find things and document them, to either confirm a discovery or find it first. That game actually tracks your timing on it and stuff, where like if you're the first to discover something, you get like a bigger reward for finding it and announcing the discovery of stuff. If you get the GameCube version, you get special bounty. You can become a bounty hunter and do special bounties across the world map. It's a very, very good game. It is very strictly turn-based, so there's not a ton of sauce necessarily. There's no like Paper Mario mechanics or Mario RPG mechanics or anything to that. It plays out very much like a turn-based RPG. But the one nice thing is that you see your characters interacting during the fight. So like say you're standing there, selecting a move for a character. All the other characters in your party are going to be like shadow boxing or like fighting the other characters, the other enemies on screen. So there's always there's a nice dynamic of movement going on. It's not just people standing in a line waiting to take their turns. So they actually move around the like this fake little battlefield and stuff. But absolutely fantastic game, totally worth your time. Obviously good soundtrack, good everything. One of my absolute favorites. Love the game. I think you should all check it out. Already got hooked on Sky Pirates. Definitely, it's a long game and there's a lot to it. You eventually get to customize your own Sky Pirate base. You get to customize your own Sky Pirate ship. You get to go all around the world recruiting crew members for it. So it's a very, very long game, but if you have the time, I think it's worth it. And then the next one is another one of my all-time absolute favorite RPGs. Maybe like personally, like this was the RPG where not my first RPG, but this was the first time I got invested in the characters, like super invested. Like I honestly cared really, really deeply about what would happen to the characters, if they're going to come out okay. This was the first RPG where I ever actually where I gave a shit, like truly gave a shit about what was happening to the characters on screen. And that is Grandia 1. This is a 90s adventure anime. This is Laputa and Castle in the Sky Had a Baby. Oh, I'm sorry. Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky Had a Baby. I said Laputa and Castle. They're the same movie. Oh, super stellar OST. So Grandia, again, it's a very much like Nausicaa meets Castle in the Sky, 90s anime vibe. Secret of Blue Water, if you will. I haven't watched the anime though to confirm. But it starts out very simply. You're a kid playing in the slums of a city, and you're playing pretend with a local other group of other kids. By the end of the game, you've traveled the world. You've worked against and with like a giant military. You've gone to space and back. You've you've acquired some like legendary mythical swords and stuff. It's insane. It is a true travel the world journey. You're the son of a famous adventurer, and then all you dream about one day is just going out and being an adventurer and explorer on your own. And then like the whole start of the game is building up to that point, and then traveling the sea, and then like everything that goes with it. You have a memento from your father, which actually turns out to be a mystical item that helps point you towards the lost floating city of Alent. It's Castle in the Sky. I'm telling you, it is just Castle in the Sky. But yes, what sets a lot of it off is basically you have a memento of your father's, and you're exploring some ruins close to where you live, and then you discover that the stone actually points the way to this lost floating city of Alent, and you're beckoned to come there, and then you go off on this crazy worldwide adventure, and it's fucking wonderful. It's got a really good battle system, actually. It's like the true evolution of the active time battle system, where you have this time bar on the bottom which shows the order in which people are going, and you can have you can speed up your character and slow him down. But there's also a little bit of time between action entered and then action, commence. So let's say an enemy gets to a point on the time bar where it says like they've decided to cast a spell. Casting a spell takes more time than a melee attack. You could do a melee attack or a cancel attack. If you come up on the sign at the same time as them, you're going to move faster, so you can actually knock them out of their move before they do it, because you can see them like winding up and stuff. So there's this, and you can strategically position your characters on the battle map where you want them to avoid, because sometimes people do attacks in their AoEs, but if you told your character to go to this spot and wait, they'll actually not get hit by it. Great battle. One of the absolute best turn-based battle systems. Grandia is really, I love Grandia 1. Like Grandia 1 has the longest and most emotionally involved and just beautiful story. 2 is a better battle system and still a pretty decent story, just not really as good as 1. And then 3 is an even better battle system, but like a pretty throwaway story. So the stories kind of got worse, and then the battle systems got better with the series. But you can buy Grandia 1 and 2 HD on the Switch and on Steam right now. They're not the best versions to play of these games, admittedly. They unfortunately use a high quality filter that smudges the pixels, and there's no way to turn it off on the HD collection. I have no idea what Gung Ho was thinking with this. I tried to warn them about it, but either way, it's still a really good game. It's still totally worth your time. But yeah, and Grandia 1 is one of my absolute favorite games. It's the first game where I truly, truly gave a shit about the characters and what was happening to them in the story. So I definitely think you should all check out Grandia, because it's actually, you can check it out. It's not expensive. It's on Switch. It's on PC. I don't know. I think it came to PlayStation and or Xbox. I actually have no idea on that, but it's definitely on Switch, and it's definitely on PC on Steam. So definitely can get that. Now, the next one is a game probably nobody but me played, let alone beat. And that's okay, because if you loved Skies of Arcadia, you should play this game. So Nostalgia is a Nintendo DS game that pretty much nobody knows about, published by Tecmo and Ignition in US and Red Entertainment. They made the Final Fantasy 3 and 4 remakes, and it is a wonderful follow-up to Skies of Arcadia. It takes place on Earth, which is really unusual for a lot of JRPGs, but it takes place on an alternate history, turn-of-the-century Earth. You use sky blimps, obviously, and you go, or in the world map is the globe of the Earth. And you might be asking yourself, so how does that explain a bunch of giant monsters and everything? Well, at the start of the game, someone opens Pandora's box. Hence all the mystical creatures getting loose into the world, so they become sort of your enemies. It's a really cool game. Again, you play this the son of an Indiana Jones archetype, and you're basically traveling the world, like trying to stop some ancient cult from unleashing too much hell on Earth, I guess. Very fun, very, very 90s anime throwback style. It has an incredible amount of post-game content. Like, they actually added a ton. There's a ton of stuff to do and explore around the globe post-game, post-credits, and it's actually really cool in that aspect. So it's a really cool. It is completely hidden. It only came out on the Nintendo DS. It's got a very simple traditional turn-based battle system. However, it does also have air. It has ship-to-ship battles in the air. So, if you kind of miss that from Skies of Arcadia, it's not the same necessarily, but you do get ship battles in the sky. So it's a very cool game. I think anyone who likes classic 80s, 90s anime, or anyone who likes Skies of Arcadia, you really should try Nostalgia. It is the absolute definition, the stone cold definition of a hidden gem, and pretty much nobody knows about it, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I have the game. It's sitting right next to me in my game case. And it's a great game, and I highly recommend it if you dig Skies of Arcadia. I really recommend checking the game out. And unfortunately it is locked to the Nintendo DS. Hopefully Nintendo can find a way to do an NSO version of the Nintendo DS so that we can maybe find a way to re-release the game in the future, because it's totally worth it. The American publisher is long gone, but Tecmo probably still has the rights, so hopefully we can find a way to bring it back. And the next game, a lot of you've heard of, a lot of you think you've played, but you haven't played this version of the game. And this very specific version of this game is a hidden gem. But yeah, this one you've definitely heard of, but this one is not the version you played.
De, 褒美は何がいいのだ？遠慮はいらぬ。何なと申してみよ。
それは国王様の持つ魔法の杖です。
そうなのね。
A lot of people thought, oh, this must, think it's a PS3 game. The PS3 game actually came after. It was initially a DS game, initially only for DS. They said a DS and another platform, and it ended up being the PS3. But yes, so there is no official way to play it in English. However, there is a fan translation available. However, you will also need to download a translated version of the Wizard's Companion in PDF format, because the game actually requires you to use the book and look at the book to solve things, to draw things, to figure out clues to riddles and whatnot, and context and contextual stuff as well. So it is a wonderful game. In fact, I really truly think the DS version is a fantastic game. It uses hand-drawn backgrounds rather than the 3D backgrounds of the PS3 game. It has a full orchestral score by the legendary Joe Hisashi. And the combat system, while simpler, kind of works better on the DS. It's a turn-based battle system where you're standing on a 3x3 grid. And one of the things, a simple thing you can do is, one of the early characters you get in the game has a little shield, and one of the early bosses will do a ground pound move that causes a shockwave to come across the ground. Well, you can manually place your party members anywhere on this 3x3 grid. So if you put, say, the guy with the shield at the front and then line everyone up right behind him, one by one, they won't get hit by, say, this shockwave attack. So there's a little bit of that going on with it. And one of the big differences between the PS3 version and the DS version is it is a different game. It has a different story. There's actually more areas of the world you go to in the DS version. In the PS3 version, that version of the universe, those, say, continents were destroyed or whatever. It ends where it's supposed to end. It is a much more tighter, narratively focused game. The story is just, frankly, was just much better on the DS version. It makes so much more sense, honestly. The PS3 version is a sort of bloated mess in comparison. I mean, it's all right on PS3, but the DS version has a different story. It has a slightly different world map. It has a different battle system, and frankly, it just works a lot better. It's what it's meant to be on the DS. And unfortunately, most people don't even know the DS version exists, let alone that was the original lead platform for the game and the one that the game was meant for it and stuff. So if you ever get a chance, I recommend checking out the English fan translation patch for Ni no Kuni on the DS. It is absolutely worth your time, especially if you really love sort of old school RPGs and those with cutscenes from Studio Ghibli and music from Joe Hisashi. So what's not to love? This one's an odd duck. I'm giving this a sort of tie. Okay, I only played this specific version of the game, but there is an RPG series that is completely lost to time, and very, very little has ever been done with it, even because it's old. There was an attempt to make a sort of remake some years ago, but it didn't really go anywhere. Unfortunately, though, because I actually really enjoyed it, but I think you should definitely check out, if you are real into the old school, you should definitely check out Lufia 2. There is a remake of Lufia 2 on the DS, which is what I played and frankly kind of enjoyed. Called Lufia in English. There is an English version of this game. I believe these are the Rune Factory devs now.
Go. この先にはきっととんでもない冒険が待ってる。
俺は守りたい。そのために旅に出なきゃならねえんだ。
世界は破壊の波動に飲まれようとしている。
こんなのどうにもならないよ。
君は本当に泣かなきゃならない時が来てないんだよ。
平和を愛する者にも戦わねばならぬ時があります。
全て私が守る。守ってみせる。
So, in America, it's called Lufia, Rise of the Sinistrals, or Curse of the Sinistrals. The DS version is a remake of Lufia 2, but it's an action RPG remake, as you saw, with real-time character swapping and what have you. Both games are unique in the fact that I'm pretty sure the SNES one, they have puzzle-solving elements in their dungeons, which is kind of unique. I mean, a lot of RPGs have a little bit of puzzle-solving, but in Lufia, it's really emphasis on, there's a lot of like Zelda-like puzzle solving in Curse of the Sinistrals, the remake, or Lufia 2 Rise of the Sinistrals on the Super NES. But it's a lot of fun. I'm familiar with the DS version. The translation in English is actually very good. There's a really fun Doc and Marty mechanic going on, because the guy who pilots your ship around the world is a guy who looks like a really hyper anime version of Doc, and then Maxim is like Marty, basically. They have a lot of fun with it. It's a very charming, fun, just good romp. And if you ever wanted an RPG that was a little more Zelda and a little less Final Fantasy, but still an RPG, you really should check out Lufia. Lufia Curse of the Sinistrals has only ever come out on the DS. Lufia 2, I think, only came out on the Super NES. And I don't believe there's ever been a re-release of any Lufia games since. They are kind of locked to their systems, unfortunately. So, yeah, puzzles is the best part. I think again, if you say you liked, say, Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and maybe you like some more fast-paced action RPG combo-heavy stuff, you should really check out Lufia Curse of the Sinistrals on the Nintendo DS. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's very charming, and it's very, very overlooked. But yeah, Lufia's good stuff, but just, man, nobody ever seemed to ever pay any attention to poor Lufia. Moving kind of, again, I guess still in the same time frame, there's another RPG by Level 5, who you would think would have gotten a lot more notoriety and play, but just didn't, for whatever reason. This was a very, very good RPG, but I think this one got cursed because it came out way too late in the system's life.
Heroes.
big buff boxer. Rogue Galaxy. Basically, the elevator pitches this. Do you like Treasure Planet? Do you wish Treasure Planet and Skies of Arcadia had a baby and it was real time instead of turn based? Well, there you go. Rogue Galaxy is it. It's definitely the game. You know, it's definitely a game that came out too late on the PS2's life. It looks really good. It's one of the better looking PS2 games. Got a really good English dub cast. I believe it's available on the PlayStation 4. So you should be able to buy it on PS4, PS5 through their store. It's a very cool game. Good soundtrack, fun battle system. It is stuffed with a lot of level 5-isms. So there is sort of mechanics and items on top of mechanics and items. But it's not unmanageable. It's not completely overwhelming the way Dark Cloud 2 kind of got. But totally cool game. Really, really cool little gem from level 5 before they sort of just imploded. But I totally recommend it. So I definitely think you should check out Rogue Galaxy. It is a game I admittedly have not beaten Rogue Galaxy, but I enjoyed what I played. I do remember it does get kind of grindy, as level 5 shit ought to do. It's like $10, but yeah, it's totally worth it. The next game, I've championed this before. You probably saw it on the GameCube list. It's not an easy game to get into, but the sequel is totally worth it if you do. And I'm noticing a bit of resurgence where people who really, really get into the meat and potatoes of this battle system actually like the first one because it's more complex than the second. But either way, I think the second has a better story, way better cast, and a way better dub. Unfortunately, the current version you can buy has no dub, but there's ways around that if you want. And that is, of course, Baten Kaitos.
My
heart of the cards.
何か大事なものを追い求めて、わけもわからずにどこかへ向かおうとする思いのままに。いずれお前にもわかるよ。
Same composer, Dark
何
Chronicle.
者なのか。
私は人の心を信じたい。でないと自分も信じられなくなってしまうもの。
このままだと君の心に僕が取り込まれる。
私たち死んじゃうの。
光なき地に光を、救いなき者に救いを。一人夜の底を行く我らを、海をいざないたまえ。
海をいざないたまえ。
It is also on Steam now, too.
私と行く？
So yeah, also actually on Steam as well now. You can get Monolith Soft's first game on PC. But yeah, Baten Kaitos 2, I actually highly recommend. These are the last FMV background RPGs. Well, JRPGs. I think Obsidian Crowd kickstarted a FMV background game. Anyways, this was the last of the FMV background games on the GameCube, and that whole era of style of JRPG pretty much went with Baten Kaitos 2. So if you really want to see what is in essence a sort of spiritual sequel to Chrono Cross with many of the same staff, check out Baten Kaitos 1 and 2. It's on Switch and it is on Steam. It does go on sale occasionally on Steam at least. And it's a really gorgeous game, but it does take a little bit. It does take a little bit of time to sort of wrap your head around its weird card-based battle system. But I think, at least as a curio, it's really a 2. Especially, which is a prequel to the first one, sometimes called Baten Kaitos Origins. I really think that game is really good, and I think that one's worth your time for sure. You know, even if you don't get into the first one, I would actually start with 2, honestly. So yeah, that is Baten Kaitos 1 and 2 HD on PC and Switch. Totally worth your time. Now the next game, you probably never played it. You might have heard of it, but if you haven't heard of it, doth the creator of Final Fantasy and the original composer of like the first 12 Final Fantasy, or at least first 11 Final Fantasy games, mean anything to you?
Peggy 16.
The last console RPG by the creator of Final Fantasy and the composer.
I'm fine. I can do this.
Looks like we have a new client.
Still have my physical copy too.
Come on. Let's finish this.
Will you see?
This is the light of the dead land.
The last story. Unfortunately, would also be the last story for Sakaguchi on console. Fantasian just came out. I should probably actually try that. But yeah, that one is unfortunately owned by Nintendo, and it has never left the Wii. And Nintendo of America wasn't even interested in publishing the game, and it had to be done by Xseed. Nintendo of Europe published it in Europe, but Xseed published it in North America because Nintendo of America was just not interested, and it is locked in the vault. It has a quasi real-time, more real-time than even Xenoblade. It has a quasi real-time battle system. It has an interesting mechanic where you can fully customize the clothing and the color of the clothing that your characters wear, so you can actually like go into the details and like literally get way into the nitty-gritty of coloring the costumes or the clothing of all your characters and stuff. So it's a really cool game. It's not quite, obviously it's not quite like Xenoblade level of greatness or anything like that, but hey man, if you want to hear one of Nobuo Uematsu's last full soundtracks, Fantasian might be his actual last. You should definitely check out Last Story. It's only available on the Wii. To my knowledge, it's never been ported or put anywhere else. I don't even know if the Wii U got a version. But yeah, it lets you go full bore into the Fashion Souls. Then speaking of Nintendo leaving things in Japan, there's another game totally worth your time, but it's a little hard to track down nowadays. Chat, have you ever wondered what if Monolith Soft made Diablo? course, it's Mitsuda. Yes, as the same artist from Xenoblade 1. Soma Bringer on the DS. It is locked to the DS. Luckily, since Nintendo of America, Reggie had a weird hate boner for Monolith Soft, which he's never owned up to. Fortunately, there is a full English translation patch for the game on the DS. It is multiplayer, as you would expect a Diablo clone to be, but it also does have a full-featured JRPG storyline and characters and whatever. It is the last game Soraya Saga worked on. Soraya Saga is the wife of Tetsuya Takahashi. She is also she's also one of the co-writers of the original Xenogears, Xenosaga. She wrote Edgar and Saban's story and characters in Final Fantasy VI. It is her last game that she ever worked on in a writing capacity, so it's definitely pretty cool. There is a lot of proto Xenoblade in Soma Bringer. There's a break topple system. There's an orbital ring. there's finding a mysterious girl, encased in something at the beginning. Like, there's definitely a lot of proto Xenoblade in Soma Bringer, but it is its own thing. And again, it plays out just like Diablo. It plays exactly like Diablo. And it is multiplayer, and it is on DS, and it is definitely, I've beaten the game. It's well worth your time. It is available in English through a fan translation patch, and I definitely think it's a game you should check out if you like Diablo and were wondering, hey, has Japan ever tried to do something like Diablo with a more Japanese RPG sensibility? So it's a really cool game. I'm really sad it never came out in English because, I don't know. Yeah, I believe Takahashi and Soraya both had writing credit on Soma Bringer. But anyways, my last game is, I wanted to wrap up on something that you can, or at least will, be able to get your hands on. And this is very much like the first couple games I showed. If you like grand adventures, if you like 90s anime, if you like more, a more lighthearted world traveling storyline, if you want something that lives and breathes, this is 90s anime RPG. This is the game for you. You know what it is. Let's just play it.
In your dreams, magical thoughts, all things are real unless you dream they're not. In your dreams, love is the plot, carried on wings of hope.
This isn't just my adventure, Luna. It's ours. It's so beautiful.
You have to be reasonable. The Dragon Master causing problems must be an imposter.
Touch this!
Mega Magic Flame!
Let's rise the dreams of your heart. That innocent you, careless and kind, free to roam the breeze in love. Only when two brilliant
quintessential JRPG. If you wanted something that was like, okay, what is the most JRPG thing I can do? You can play Lunar. Lunar is JRPG. It is what the genre was. Originally on the Sega CD, then on the Saturn in Japan, then on the PlayStation in Japan and America, and then on a million other things. Probably one of the most remade games of all times is Lunar 1. We are finally getting another easier way to play Lunar when it releases in April on the Switch, on the PlayStation, on the PC. I don't know about Xbox, probably not. From the Sega CD, yes. So if you wanted to like, okay, what's the Casablanca? What's the It's the Wonderful Life? You know, what is the golden age, you know, version of something? What is the Wizard of Oz of JRPGs? Like something that's like, this is like one of the most classic of movies that like defines movies. There you go. That's Lunar. Lunar is the most JRPG thing you can get besides like Final Fantasy II on the Super NES. There will be a physical copy for Lunar, I think, later on for Switch and PlayStation. But yeah, it is a fantastic game. It is grindy though. You will have to probably grind. I'm hopeful that the remake or remaster collection will have built-in cheats, because sometimes if you have anything close to resembling a life, sometimes you definitely need those cheats to get you through it. But anyways, those are 10 fantastic RPGs, classic JRPGs, some of them real-time, some of them turn-based, that I think is well worth your time and well worth seeking out, especially if they are available. Some are available, some are not. Some you will have to use a fan translation to get through them. But I think you know, these are games that I recommend. I don't know if I'd say any of them are as good as Xenoblade, but hey, they are really good games. And I think if you're interested in the genre and the tone and the sort of sincerity that comes with the JRPGs and the music, you should check those games out. I think they're all worth it. So those are 10 hidden gem JRPGs that I totally think y'all should play.